All right, today you want to go ahead and make sure that you've got these things out for our review today. Okay, so today we are going to go over starting at problem 22, and I want to go ahead and go through problem 40 just to make sure you understand this. Remember, if you understand these kinds of questions, then you're going to do great on your midterm. If you don't, go back through your notes or go back and rewatch some of the videos, or come to me after school. I would love to help you. But let's go ahead and go through this first one right here. It says to write the following number in standard form. Yesterday we finished up where we had something in standard form and we switched it to scientific notation. Let's go ahead and look at this one. Who can tell me what to do to start with? Jakari. So the first thing we do is we drop it down and then we're going to move the decimal. How many places should I move the decimal?
6.
Okay, this right here, that exponent tells us to move it 6 places. Then what?
And then bring it down and add 0.
Okay, we're going to put those zeros or the eggs into the egg carton. Now, after I drop it down, then what do I do?
Add the commas.
All right, go ahead and put your commas in, and that is your final answer. How many of you would say you got that correct for number 22? Okay, here's a way that you can also do it. I want you to pull out your calculators and slip this right here into your calculators and check to see if it comes out as this answer. That's just another way to double check things. Okay, let's go on to the next one. 3.52, you want to just go ahead and drop down that right there. How many places do I move my decimal point? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do I put in my scoops? Put the zeros, drop it down, and what's my answer, guys? 352,000 is correct. Number 24 and 25 says, tell whether the number is prime or composite and explain your answer. Asia, what'd you get for 24? Okay, composite. What does composite mean?
You can go multiple numbers.
Okay, it means that there's some factors that fit into it. It's a more complicated number because it has other things that fit into it. Explain your reasoning. Why do you think it's composite? All right, she says 8 times 11, and that is true. 8 times 11 does equal 88. Did anyone have any other reasoning that you put in there for your reasoning? Yes.
2 times 44.
All right, she said 2 times 44, which is also truthful. There's one other one. What was it?
88 times 1.
Okay, but you can't do anything times 1. That proves that it's prime. There is one other one, though. It would be 4 times 22. Okay, so any of those are fine to put in there. You only need to give me one reason. Next up, Alex, what about the number 43, prime or composite? Okay, why is it prime? Explain your reasoning. 1 times 43 proves that that is the only thing that can go into 43. There are no other factors inside of 43. Okay, very good job. Moving on to number 26, find the GCF and the LCM by using prime factorization. What does prime factorization mean?
Upside down division.
Upside down division, okay? So let's go ahead and do this. What can go into a 12? 2 times?
6.
What goes into a 6?
2.
Times?
3.
All right, anything else? No, let's go on to the 30. What goes into it?
2.
3 times,
10.
and then...
2. And 5.
Okay, now, how many of you would say that your order did not look quite like this? Okay, how many of you did divided by 2 first? That's totally fine, okay? The order doesn't matter to me. When you need to put it in order, though, is when you come down here and you list all those factors. We've got 2, 2, and 3. Now you have to make sure that you go ahead and put these in order 2, and then 3, and 5, okay? So it's asking us to find the GCF and the LCM. What does GCF stand for? Greatest common factor. Do you guys remember what I said about factors? Factors fit into numbers. So we know that our GCF has to fit into both a 12 and a 30. All right, what does LCM stand for? Least common multiple. What do we say? Multiples get what?
Bigger.
Bigger, okay? So we know that our LCM is going to be at least as big as the 30 or possibly bigger. So let's use that to help us as we find this. Who can help me with how to find the GCF?
You multiply 2 times 3 times 5. 2 times 3 times 2 times 5.
Okay, there's something specific I got to do before I do any of that. Where are you getting those numbers?
You have to circle the pairs first.
Circle the pairs. What are my pairs?
2 and 3.
Okay, there's 2 2s and 2 3s. Now, what happens to those 2?
You drop them down.
The 2 become, they 2 become one number. What is 2 times 3? 6. What is 6?
The GCF.
That is my GCF. Remember, greatest common factor. Can this 6 fit into a 30 and into a 12? Yes, it can fit into it, all right? And that's the greatest number that fits into both of them. LCM. What's the one thing we know about LCM?
Leftovers.
Leftovers. We cannot forget about these poor leftovers right here. So let's include these guys now too. And I'm going to go ahead and bring them down. 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. And what is that? 60. That means that this is a multiple right here of both that number and that number. And a 12 can fit into a 60. A 30 can also fit into a 60. So that is your GCF and your LCM. Who would say that you got both of those correct? All right, once again, if you did not, that's okay. Just erase it and fix it for your midterm notes. Number 27, let's do the same idea. What goes into an 18?
2.
And then a
9.
divide by?
3.
Which equals?
3.
All right, and we know that all of these numbers right here are prime numbers, which is why we call it prime factorization. Let's go on to the 20. Divide by?
2.
And get?
10.
Divide by?
2.
And get?
5.
All right, and then we know we ended on a prime number, and all of these are prime numbers. So we know we are ready to go ahead and put them in order from least to greatest. Now what do I do?
Circle the pairs.
Okay, what are my pairs?
2. And that's it.
All right, only a 2. So what is that answer right there?
2.
For the what? GCF or LCM? All right, that is for the GCF. Now what do I do with the LCM?
Leftovers.
Circle all of the leftovers. Okay, now is this a pair right here? No, because you've got to have one number that's in the 18 and also inside the 20, okay? So I cannot circle that as a pair. I just circle it individually. And now I'm going to bring them all down, and I will multiply them together. When I multiply all these together, what do I get? 180, and that is your least common multiple. This is what it says. Write the fraction in simplest form and tell whether or not the fractions are equivalent.
Can I do it?
Okay,
Are you JD?
JD, is this right here in simplest form?
No.
Now, what can go into a 14 that can also go into a 21?
7.
A 7. When I divide by 7 on both top and bottom, what do I get?
2/3.
2/3. Okay. Is 24/36 in simplest form? What's the greatest number that can go into both of them?
Whoa.
A 12. Divide by 12 on top and on bottom, and what do you get?
2/3.
2/3. Are those equivalent?
Yeah.
Yes, they are. So you're simply going to write the word yes.
Yeah.
For the next one, let's find out if this is equivalent or not. Emma, what can go into a 7 that can also go into a 56? A 7. When you do that, what does it become? 1/8. Okay, what can go into a 12 that also goes into 84?
12.
A 12. And what do you get? 1/7. Are those equivalent? No, they are not. Great job. Next up, 30 and 31 are asking us to write the fraction or mixed number as a decimal. Kyla, how do I write 1/4 as a decimal?
I put 0.25.
That is correct. Okay, now listen. If you might say, I don't remember how to do this, I want you to pull up your calculator. Everyone put 1/4 in there. Now simply, I just want you to go ahead and hit that S to D button. It's turning it from a standard to a decimal. And it should tell you exactly what the answer is. Now help me out to know, is this a terminating decimal or a repeating decimal? Okay, why is it terminating?
Because it
Because it doesn't have a line over one.
Because it ended. It's not continuing to go on and on and on. It doesn't continue repeating. Okay? Let's go on to the next one. 6 2/9. What do I have to do that before I can do anything else?
Make it into an improper fraction.
Make it into an improper fraction. What is the improper fraction? Not 50 over 9.
56 over 9.
Okay, 56 over 9. When you put 56 ninths into your calculator, what comes out?
1.3.
6.2.
It is not 1.3.
6.2 p. 6.2 and then the line was over 2. Yeah, it's 6.2.
For those of you who had got 1.3 repeating, you got to be careful because you cannot put it into your calculator like this and then just hit that S to D button. You have to actually do some work, turn it into that improper fraction first in order to get it, okay? Is this terminating or repeating? It's repeating, okay? Because what this line right here means is that it's actually saying 6.22222222 and going on forever, okay? So that is repeating. Very good job. How many of you got both of those correct? Okay. Next up, write the improper fraction as a mixed number. Okay, all this means is 23 divided by 3. So you're trying to figure out how many times that 3 can go into it, which is, what's your answer?
7 and 2/3.
7 2/3, okay? Now, how many of you would say you know how to come up with this answer without doing all of that work? Okay? If you can, that is totally fine with me. You do not have to show that much work unless you just really want to. What is 11 halves?
5 and 1/2.
5 1/2, okay? Now remember, there's a way to double check that. Just to see that you've got the correct answer, you can multiply 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11, and so you get 11 halves, which is the same thing that you got over there, okay? Always try to double check your work if you can. This one says copy and complete the statement using greater than, less than, or equal to. For this kind of a problem, you have to show me work. Does anyone remember what kind of work I'm looking for on this kind of a problem? Asia. You have to find a common denominator. What is our common denominator?
40.
40, okay? So now you just have to figure out how did you get from this 5 down to that 40. What do you have to multiply by, guys?
8.
You multiply by 8. When you're doing it, multiply by 8 on both the top and the bottom. What's your new fraction?
24 over 40.
24 40ths, okay? Next up, Michael, help me out to know, how do I get from this 8 down to that 40? Okay, you want to multiply by 5 on both the top and the bottom, and what do you get?
You get 35 and 40.
Okay, so now we're looking down here. Read to me from left to right what the answer should be. 24 40ths is... All right, so that is your final answer. Okay, what's my common denominator for number 35? 24. How do I get from an 8 down to a 24? Multiply by 3. Remember, whatever you do to the bottom, you also have to do to the top. And what's your new fraction?
15 over 24.
15 over 24, which we can see is going to be the same here. So what's our sign? Equal to. 5/8 is the same thing or equivalent to 15 24ths. Okay, same idea with this one. Order the fractions from least to greatest. We got to make sure that we have a common denominator. Just the girls, I want you guys to help me with number 36. What's my common denominator? 20. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and give each one of them a 20. Just the ladies, keep helping me. How do I get from 3/10 to a 20th?
Multiply by 2.
Okay, multiply by 2 on top and bottom. What'd you get? 6 20ths. What about the next one?
7 20ths.
You get to just keep it the same because it's already in the 20ths. Keep going, girls. Next one. Multiply it by 5 on top and bottom to get 5 20ths. Last one.
Multiply by 4 on.
Multiply by 4 on top and bottom, and you'll get 4 20ths. Okay, now remember, you want to put it back into its original problems that you had at the very beginning. So of all of these, when I look at the 20ths, I know 4 20ths is the tiniest. So what is that in the original problem?
1/5.
1/5. What should my next one be?
1/4.
1/4. Next one?
3/10.
3/10, and the final one? 7 20ths is correct. Good job. Ladies, you did awesome. I'm going to have the boys help me with the next one. So, gentlemen, what is the common denominator for all of those?
45.
45 is correct. So I'm going to go ahead underneath. Now remember, on your midterm, I am looking to see that you show me the common denominator and how you're getting to it. Okay? Once again, if it's not in your notes that you've done over the homework period, switch it for me and go ahead and put it in there for me now, okay? Boys, how do I get from 2/3 to the 45ths?
Multiply by 15.
Multiply by 15. Boys, help Michael out, okay? What do you get?
30. Wait, no. 20.
30 45ths, okay? Next up, how do I get 3/5 to a 45th?
9.
Times 9 on top and bottom, what do you get? 27. Next one,
5.
times 5, and what do you get?
25.
Very good. Last one, times 3, and what do you get?
21.
21. Okay, now let's go from least to greatest. I can see 21 45ths is the tiniest one, so what's my original?
7/15.
7/15. Next one,
5/9.
5/9. Guys, help him out. Next one,
3/5.
and all boys, last one.
45.
2/3. Remember, you don't want to say 30 45ths because that's what we came up with, but you want to go back and write it as the original problem. Okay? Very good job. Who got both of those correct on their own? Once again, if you didn't, that's okay. I just want to make sure you get that switched for your notes today. Next one. Same idea is still happening here. Find the sum or difference and then simplify your answer. First thing you have to do before you do anything else is come up with a common denominator. What is the common denominator between a 12 and an 18? 36, okay? So your goal is to turn these into a 36. How do I turn 12ths into a 36th?
Multiply by 3.
Times 3. If I multiply the bottom, I also have to multiply by the top. So what's my new fraction?
12/36.
Very good. Okay, help Asia out. What's the next thing? I got to get from an 18 over to a 36. What do I do?
Multiply by 2.
Times 2, and what do you get? 10/36. All right, now you're going to be adding the new part that we had right here. What's 12/36 plus 10/36? 22/36. The instructions asked us, and you always know you've got to simplify your answer. What's the answer?
11/18.
11/18 is correct. Okay, when you're adding and subtracting fractions, do you have to have a common denominator? Yes. Whenever you're doing a problem like this, should I do the whole number first or the fraction first? Always do the fraction first. What is 3/8 minus 1/8? 2/8. What's 9 minus 5? 4. Can this be simplified?
Yes.
What's the answer? 4 1/4. How many of you got that correct? All right, if you didn't, once again, that's okay. Erase it and fix it. All right, these are going to be the final two problems that we do today. It says find the product and simplify your answer. Whenever I'm multiplying, do I need to have a common denominator?
No, not for multiplying.
When you multiply, you do not need a common denominator. Okay, so do not worry about getting a common denominator. Is there anything in this problem that I can cross-reduce?
No.
There is not. So all you're going to do is multiply from left to right. What is 1 times 3?
3.
3. What is 8 times 4?
32.
32. Can that be simplified?
No.
It cannot be simplified. All right, so 3/32 is your answer. Going on to the next one. What do I have to do before I can do anything else?
Make a common or a fraction.
Do I need a common denominator?
No.
No, you do not. So turn it into a what? All right, what would 3 1/3 be?
10 over 3.
10 over 3. What's 2 7/10?
17 over 10. Oh, wait, no, 27 over 10.
27 over 10. Can anything there cross-reduce?
Yes.
Which ones?
3 and 27.
27 and 10.
1. The 4 times the 1. 27 times the 9.
Good job. Anything with the other two numbers?
Yes.
Yes.
Look at 1.
They can turn into a 1 and 1. All right? When you multiply this out, you get
9 over 1.
9 over 1, and simplified, that would be 9. Okay? Excellent job today. That is all that we're going to cover today is through problem 41. Tonight's homework is to finish the rest of your review sheet all the way through problem 60.